Here we are.
And the little
Right.
voice.
It's a little voice I hear. I'm like, I closed all the Facebook stuff because I'm like, oh, I'm hearing myself. All right. So here we are, me and Rob, the conscious bridge to healing. And we ended last time starting to talk about consciousness, right? So we can start here. But do we need to remind them who we are? Like, do you want to tell them, like, just say like who you are and what you do and where to find you, or you want to just wait till the end?
So my name is Robert Siemens, and I'm an acupuncturist in New Jersey, lovely New Jersey. And I practice a form of acupuncture that's non-insertive. So that's why we called last time's conversation, it's acupuncture, and it isn't because we're not puncturing anything, but it's, well, you still need a license to do it. Anyway, that was last time's talk, and I think we're going to pick it up, Jennifer, somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna pick it up somewhere else. So yeah, just to recap, and I think we're gonna go also go a little bit about a little bit more about its acupuncture and it's not. So, but yeah, we left off last time with consciousness, like so, and you and I have a similar view of consciousness where we look at density, right? We're looking at densities in some way. And understanding that there's a bridge right between consciousness and healing that has to be made for I would say there's different levels of healing and different expressions of healing that we can get to that some people have an idea like, and maybe you've experienced this, where they come to you and they just want fixed, like they basically just want to um they want to be able, they have frozen shoulder, they want to be able to go back to their old life, right? I don't consider that necessarily healing, complete healing. How about you?
Well, what did Einstein say, right? The consciousness that created a problem is not the consciousness that will get you out of it
Right.
and solve the problem. So, yeah, exactly. A lot of people want that, right? They just want
Mhm.
to, they come in, they want to get fixed up so they can go back and keep doing the same stupid stuff they've been doing before.
Mhm.
Whereas I don't think your condition can change without you changing on some level.
Well, that I think sometimes like the condition that they're complaining about might change, but then something else happens. Like it's kind of like just moving the problem, and it's going to express. It's going to look for a place to express, right?
Yeah, right. Like, I think if what you're saying is that what they think of the problem is really just a manifestation
Right.
of
Something else.
the real problem.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
yeah.
And Shelly, who has had sessions with me, she's here on the webinar with us, and I know she has a shoulder. I don't know if she still has a shoulder issue, but it's interesting that I chose that because I didn't see her on here, and she didn't join until after I used that as the example. But Shelly, if you have questions, you can feel free to ask us, and then we'll chime in when I see them. But yeah, like I see a lot of this, and even for myself, like in my own healing journey, just trying to understand like how to get to this place where kind of I ask, what is healing? Like what really, like last year to me it was like, what really is healing? And I'm kind of sitting there like this, like what is it? Because I what I see most people doing out there does not look like healing to me.
Well, yeah, right.
Mhm.
That's a big question I think about a lot. What are we healing from?
Right. What are we healing from?
Um,
Yeah.
Whoa, I mean, that's the big question. But also, yeah, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. That's all
Um,
right. That's because we're just
I was going to
we're
go somewhere else with that.
and then something else popped in,
And
something
then
bumped it
something,
out.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Is it something is it something that pertains to this or no?
Yeah, sure. We
Yeah.
can pertain to this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to share that?
No, I think I shared that instead of what I was.
Thinking about?
Anyway, onward.
Onward. Yeah. So I'm just gonna what I'm gonna do is highlight us so people know that we're on too. Uh
Also as we're going through this process of
mm,
life or whatever you want to call it,
mhm,
wellness, healing, I mean, we're all just kind of peeling off the layers too, right?
mhm.
We're onions in a way.
Yeah. Well, that's so if you think about it, like even just thinking about your own journey, think about where you were before acupuncture school and before becoming an acupuncturist in your level of consciousness. And now, like, has it changed a lot?
Yeah, it has changed a lot. And what and
Mhm,
um, you know, school changed a lot. And
mhm,
then also thinking about where I was getting out of right after school
mhm.
versus now. And I would say probably I would think meditation uh for that huge shift, definitely.
Yeah, well, yeah, so that's, you know, being a practitioner, I had to meditate. Like I had to meditate. I couldn't I to maintain a practice for as long as I did, that had to be a daily practice.
Hmm.
It just had to be a thing because there's so much going on. And I can also feel like when I've worked on clients, like really I had this sense of them wanting to be in that me to meet them in that level of consciousness that's comfortable for them. That at the same time wanting me to help them get out of it. So there's a conflict in the client, like what I noticed, that's a consciousness thing where they don't want to leave that level or that place of consciousness. I don't really care because, like, this is not better than this per se, right? As far as consciousness, even though people want to make it a hierarchical thing, right? That's the way I'm looking at it.
Mm.
Um, but then, like, so they expect me to be the person that can heal them, which I don't heal anyone, but then get annoyed if I wouldn't, agree to the way they see it. Well, I have to can't see it your way, because if I see it your way, I can't help you get out of it.
We could spend a lot of time unpacking that, and I might get lost again, but on some level, right? They just kind of I guess what you were saying was that level of consciousness, are they in a place where they feel safe and
Right.
it's frightening to get out of that space in
Mm-hmm.
some way? And
Mm-hmm.
then that's one point. And then another point is in some way, people sometimes, I'm not saying everybody, but some people want you to do all the work for them. And it's kind of like, oh, take this away from me. And they're not taking any responsibility for their own well-being
Mm-hmm.
in a way. That's also sometimes a thing. So that's I guess that's a couple points, right? That
Yeah.
maybe talk about a little further or explore. But
Yeah. Yeah. There's it's a lot of interesting things because the other things like people know when they know consciousness, that David Hawkins power versus force model of consciousness where it has all these levels and it has a number, like a frequency number
yeah,
associated with it.
yeah.
But I find that very strange in some way because I feel like you have to be able to explore the lower levels of consciousness and not or this expression let's just say like I would call them like kind of like temporary expressions of consciousness, right? You have to be able to see yourself in that level without getting lost in it, which means you it's like the way it's set up, it's like saying, well, once you get here you're here and that's it, but life is not like that. You will you will come back down because you have to grow, right? And there are different things that stimulate that growth. You have to it's like kind of like you have to have a way of navigating consciousness. It's really like being a conscious, to me, it's like being able to navigate levels of consciousness without losing yourself in them or without over identifying with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it kind of makes me think of sometimes when you see the people in the airport sitting there doing the tapping or the whatever, trying to protect themselves from whatever, all the time, constantly, or
Right.
walking around rubbing their crystals or something. I mean, which I
You mean
guess
like
we all kind
this?
of
You
do
mean
on some
this?
level. Yeah, but you hide it well. I
Well,
got mojo in my pockets right now, but I don't know. I'm not showing. I'm not sitting there doing this all the time. Which I
well,
mean, it has its place and everything, but I mean,
right.
you can kind of see some of these people who are just so scared of something.
Right. And I don't have this because I have fear. I mean, I have it because I actually like the way this is a polished piece. I don't love I like the raw pieces a little better.
What's the
Um
polish? Is it indigo gabbro?
yeah, that's indigo. This is
Yeah.
called this is they call it angel wing indigo gabbro, so it's a little different. And I have the regular indigo gabbro here, like so you can see the difference, right?
Not on the screen too well. No.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll have to show you. But anyway, like I only have them because I like the way they feel.
Yeah.
They help remind me of something. Like so basically it's not about like me going, "Oh my God, if I don't have this next to me, I'm gonna get in trouble." Like I'm gonna, I'm gonna get an entity, right? That's not
Yeah.
for me, it's more about like, well, this feels good to touch and it feels good on my skin and I like having it around and that's it. I don't give my power away to it because I feel like they're friends that just help you remember. And I also don't program them because I think that's another kind of I ask if they'll work with me to help me do something like and that's part of it is just kind of like saying, can you help me organize my consciousness? Help me remember that this is what I want to do. That's how I look at it. It's a memory tool.
Yeah. And it does work though. I mean, if you put it on a
Mhm.
geopathic stress line,
Yeah.
it it does work, which
Yeah.
is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice. So all those, it's like I think that one of the things is I think there was a big question like in 2020 for us as practitioners when we looked around at other practitioners and thought, why are they going along with all this? Like,
Hmm.
I don't we and a lot of people like in the yoga world and any kind of like capacity where you're like helping people heal, whatever it is, whether you're a doctor or a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or a massage therapist, and going, I don't, kind of having this, why would you go along with what's going on? Why did they get sucked into fear and went along with it? When we didn't. And I really think it has to do with that they're still in a mechanical consciousness. They're still in a materialistic kind of Western medicine minded consciousness, although they're practicing something alternative. And it was easy for them to just get sucked in because that's really how they were working with that alternative thing anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've seen that a lot.
Right. Yeah.
And I think we touched on this last time that that's really a
Hmm.
danger of where acupuncture education is going these days.
Hmm.
It might look holistic, but it's not practiced in a holistic. And, the powers that be know it works and they just want to totally co-opt it
Right. And I had an
and take its own power away from it.
right. And I had an interesting discussion with someone who's not an acupuncturist who is an East Coaster who lives here in Kauai too. And I basically said, I mentioned the Mao thing, and all the books were just, acupuncture, Chinese medicine books were burned. And I also think it goes back to all the emperors who sent out emissaries into the countryside to gather information from these woo or shaman, the people that were practicing the medicine, and then they kind of like compiled this thing together, right? They, like trying to piece something together, something uniform. But I think that that's part of the problem because it's like the king saying, even healing is my territory.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then like you said with the books, and they wrote their own books, but it was purged of anything. It was all what material dialecticism
Right.
or whatever I mean, it was
Yeah.
all that. And I mean, you probably remember our textbook said, well, back in the old days, this, but we consider it feudal and backwards and whatever and all that. But that's the good stuff. I want to learn. That's the
Right,
stuff I want to learn,
exactly.
you
Well,
know?
well, it's kind of like I'm sitting here going, okay, so here we are, right? Here's where we're at. Here's the playing field. People aren't playing on the playing field that's in front of them. They're playing on the playing field that they think they're playing on. So if that makes sense, like so basically, like it's like saying if I how I need to operate in consciousness and as a healing practitioner is I have to say like, well, what's the playing field? What's the current reality as the way it stands? A lot of practitioners don't do that because you have the personal issue, right, that the person has, but they're part of the collective. So how do you like so think about it, right? So think about how the medicine was started in China based on the need of the time. So what was brought forward was based on the need of the time and the environment. So the cold schools, right? And the heat schools and all these things and medicines that are developed in a colder climate are going to be different than medicines developed in a warmer climate because
Yeah.
of the needs of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right now, I'm kind of looking at this like healing climate. Like, what's the healing climate and what can come out of me, right? What it needs
Yeah.
to come out to help
Well,
people.
right. I mean, yeah. You have these people out there who are eating macrobiotic, or they're eating these Ayurvedic diets, or
Right.
these whatever, Chinese medicine diets. And I'm not sure that's the way to go, because, you can either follow that thing,
Hmm.
or you can take the principles of these
Right.
medicines and adapt them to your own situation, which is probably more appropriate.
Yes.
Me as a member of a North European coastal population, I mean, I don't think I should be eating rice every day, and all that kind of
Hmm.
all those grains and all that stuff, which we shouldn't be, right? I probably need more fish and seaweed and all those kinds of things. So if I was to eat lentils and rice and soy every day, I'd be doing myself a big disservice, thinking I'd be doing something good for my body, but I'm probably just getting a whole lot weaker.
Right. And so,
I'd have to take the principles
right.
and adapt them to my place and my climate and my own
Right.
situation.
Right. What's right in front of
Yeah.
you? What's in front of
What's
you?
right here? Yeah.
What do you have? I call this is my desert island creativity. Dick. Call it Dick. Get some because what do you have in your environment that you can use? Like, so what's there? And so you're talking about genetics, right? You're talking about your genetics, but you're not living in the place of your ancestors.
Right.
But you can eat some ancestral foods, but then you weren't even born there. You didn't grow up there, so you have another layer, right? You have another layer of kind of like,
Right. Right.
yeah. Yeah.
But I'm
Like,
also not living in a place where I should probably be eating avocados and cashew nuts every day because they don't grow here. I shouldn't be eating lettuce in December.
yeah, what grows
It's
in
not
right. So New
exactly,
Jersey,
it's not
yeah, New
appropriate.
Jersey,
Yeah,
you're in tomato season. You're in high tomato season.
we are.
Yeah,
We
good
are.
tomato season. That's like that's tomato season, man. Like
But in a few weeks they'll be done.
they'll be done. They'll be
And
done.
we should
So
forget about them,
you should
Stop
forget
not trying to
about
eat
them.
that cardboard from the food store, you
Right.
know,
Right. So
anymore.
when I'm saying that because like that's what's alive, that's what this is the growing season. That's what's available. That's what's in the playing field at the moment.
Yeah.
So people I feel like are holding on to things, not letting go of things, not opening themselves to new things. Like, so basically, there you can look at this level of consciousness model or understand that like your consciousness has to shift to be able to move out of eating tomatoes year round if they don't grow at that time. And
Yeah.
also, if you don't have a growing season, like if you have a winter, then you have to prepare for that. Then there's a, that preparation. Like, so we don't live also, I would say part of the reason why the consciousness is not bridging into the healing is because we do not live with the seasons, with nature, with the cycles. We're so out of sync with the natural cycles.
We're really disassociated from most of us from our immediate environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cray cray.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, so what do you do? How do you shift that? How do you live naturally in an urban environment? How do you get out of the level of consciousness? Or how can you even see? First of all, like I think part of it is instead of getting out of the level of consciousness you were in that started the thing, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to see the level of consciousness, the level of creation consciousness that started
Mm-hmm.
this thing. Now, sometimes, so I think also people get trapped because they're like, well, um, whatever, I fell and I hurt my knee, right? Like we could say that, like that would be an example. Well, but that fall and that hurting that knee is not the level of consciousness that opened that event. It's before. Something happened before. Because another person could have the same fall and not hurt anything. You see?
I was like, what were you thinking about when you tripped and fell and
Right,
hurt your knee?
there's that, right? But then there's you understand? Like, so that's like, it's kind of like being a detective. What's, what is the consciousness or the thought process that opened the door to that possibility? That's the way, like, so why, like, you know, like, why do some people get sick when they're around other sick people, and why do other people don't? And I
Yeah.
know, like, I started looking, I can't remember where I found it. I know I saved it somewhere, but I have to look for it. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. So I found out that during that 1918 flu, that whole Spanish whatever, this whole debacle, uh, they were doing studies trying to infect people. So they would take someone who was sick, they would take their mucus and put it all over the face and in the mucus cavities of someone else. And I think they did it with prisoners and sailors. And you know what? No one got sick.
I
They
think I
couldn't
read that
make
too. So
they couldn't make anyone get sick. That's all suppressed. Like that's all hidden, but it's there. You can find it. You can find that information. So I think it was two different groups, like, but they weren't the same people doing the same studies, but they took prisoners and sailors. So that's why I had said, I've been saying, like, well, I just kind of asked people, like, how would you design a study? I've asked people where you would be able to prove airborne or transmission of anything through sputum. And no one, like, they don't even think about it. And I'm like, well, I know how I would do it.
Mhm.
Like, first you'd have to have someone who has symptoms. You'd have to list their symptoms. You'd have to take their mucus, get them to spit on someone that didn't have any symptoms, and see if that person got symptoms. But they've never been able to do that. So then it's like, is it a psychological thing? It's a consciousness thing then? So all this stuff is based on lies. So
Well,
basically, it's like hiding. Like, so it's like so that's what I mean. It's like, how do you decode consciousness? How do you decode healing? How do you, become this conscious bridge to your own healing?
how do you, Jennifer?
I don't know. I'm asking you. A wise one.
I think it's going to be a different path for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Mm,
I think I said earlier, we talked about meditation. That
yeah.
helped me a lot because you kind of start out where it's almost like you're in a high walled canyon, and they start off where they call the narrow path,
Mm,
and it's just the only way to go is forward, and there's no room for distractions. You're forced to look at what's in front of you.
hmm. Noah's calling me.
Oh,
I'm not answering it.
you're busy.
I'm busy. Busy. So yeah, and saying that, because getting back to before, because you were saying people need to feel safe, which is why I created like this whole 12-week meditation series where I did all these practices before meditation that would help people realize they were safe in their body. Like, I realized that one of the probably the deepest thing that people don't realize why fear comes up in meditation, or why they don't feel safe, or why they can't stay there, because when you close your eyes, it's another world. This is a reality. When you close your eyes, you're not seeing this reality anymore. You're seeing inner reality. But it's also symbolic of death. When you close your eyes to the world, the final curtain, right? So people, like, meditation is a way of facing the fear of death.
Interesting. I
And
actually
the
learned meditation with your eyes open.
Yeah, well, and also the fear of life. Like, so yeah. Oh, so when you learned it, everything is eyes open.
We meditate with our eyes open, right? And the view is that you're not shutting out the world or trying to retreat into some kind of inner self-created space or something, or shut
Mhm.
out anything. You want to be aware and awake to your world.
Yeah, we do a little. Yeah,
And whatever's happening in your world, you actually use that to wake yourself up.
that's pretty cool. Yeah. So if you got anyone wants that, you should reach out to Rob for that. But so basically, like, that's part of how I did it. With we did open eyes, close eyes, but most of the
Hmm.
meditation, the time in silence was eyes closed. But that's interesting. That meditation, the certification you took, it was a is it based in Buddhism?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It's based on shamatha vipassana,
okay.
or in Tibetan Shine Latong, which is mindfulness awareness meditation.
And
and it's what how Buddha woke himself up. But anyone can practice it. You don't have to identify as a Buddhist or anything like that. It's a completely secular practice.
yeah, I don't think we all, any of us need to identify as a Buddhist or an anythingist.
You just need to identify as a human, right? And
Yeah,
if you have a
yeah.
body and a mind, you can do it.
Yeah, you can, that's right. You have all that,
Yeah.
you have all that's required to
You
do
have
this
everything you
practice.
need. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You already have everything you need. Yeah.
Well, that's, I think, what life is. It's like kind of we go through this thing of like attaining things we think we need, and then we get to a point where I realize, well, I didn't need any of that shit. I already had what I needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think when you meditate, you wear out some of that,
Hmm. Yeah.
among other things.
Yeah.
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 But
But so we're
right.
seeing, and one of the things that's interesting that I learned from studying basically chi healing, right? It's more of a qigong, kind of healing practice. Um, it is a qigong healing practice basically, and you have to do a qigong form to be a practitioner, right? They teach you a form to do, but I haven't done it in so long. I don't remember the whole routine. I'd have to go take a review class basically. But I had never learned this in acupuncture school, but they said based on Chinese medicine that this style of qi healing, the number one way to heal yourself is meditation. Like acupuncture is down on the list.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Right. Were there like five pillars or something of traditional Chinese medicine?
Hmm.
And depending on what school you're from, they put their own at the top, right?
Right,
You know,
right,
the
right,
acupuncturists will say, hey, acupuncture is the best way. The qigongers will say, well, that's the best way, where the dietary people will say, no, it all starts with your food. And the
right.
herbs say, no, you need the herbs to, right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's interesting because they were qigong people and they didn't say qigong. They didn't list qigong as number one. They said meditation as number one,
Mm, hmm.
which I think mind over matter, right? But it's like you can't have mind over matter until like so basically I think you have to put your mind in your matter. You have to
Yeah,
understand
I
that
just
you're
hate that phrase, mind over
yeah,
matter.
yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Well, so in astrology it would be air over earth. Air over, this would be the alignment, air over earth. Now, I would say it's not over. I think that's the problem. I think the issue is what we're really saying is that your mind is in your body. I mean, sorry, your body is in your mind. Like kind of like seeing that you have to understand that like your body, it's like, yes, to me, I value the body as a way of as a way of healing and consciousness and all that. And a lot of people don't. But then there's this other thing of like, well, it's only the body. Well, it's not only the body, but that your mind is not in your body. It's actually more than your body.
Yeah.
Like, or it's like, it's not getting people to think that their mind is only inside their body is the problem. That's really how I think I want to say it.
Right. Or you're right. They think your mind is your brain.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And there's actually a lot of science that shows otherwise if you want to
Right.
go down that route, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Um, some people are coming to realize now that your heart really isn't so much of a pump as it is actually an organ of perception.
Well, have you seen the video where they opened up a heart and they show it's a vortex? They unravel it, they stretch it out, and even they said
No.
I think Leonardo da Vinci said it was a vortex too.
Wow.
So there's a whole video, they take the heart, all the valve, and they just do this, whoop, and it's like they stretch it out, and it's not what you think it is, but it creates a vortex when as you unravel it, you can see, like if you were to put it back together, it would be a vortex.
Wow.
I'll have to try to find it and send it to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Stephen Harrod Booner in one of his books gives a big, big section into the whole heart and what it really is and as an organ of perception and not a pump and all that. And I can't,
Thomas
all his
Cowan.
books sound
Yeah.
Tom Cowan,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Human Heart, Cosmic Heart.
Right.
And I can't think of the name of Booner's book because all his titles sound the same. But it's like James Bond movies. I don't know one from the other. The all titles sound the same, but it's a great book. I'll have it for you next time.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. I'm curious about it because that helps to understand like how to unravel, right, your consciousness, how to it's kind of looking at it like I think your consciousness gets frozen in time and space, which aren't really necessarily real, but it's like getting locked into a memory.
Right. I think I guess you could say it expands consciousness instead of just from purely identifying as consciousness with the body.
Right. Right.
Right. It
Exactly.
expands it a bit. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, finding so it's like I'm sitting here going, I know people signed up to like to be on the webinar, and I guess Shelly had to leave, but I'm going, man, if I
Maybe we
were
just weren't interesting enough.
I I laugh because oh, of course I can't. Um because I'm like, oh, this is a conversation I want to hear. And I realize that a lot of people don't. They there's this really interesting thing for me where people think that they're growing in consciousness because they can channel or because they're talking about angels or because they're regurgitating information or because of they don't even realize like they go into new age spirituality and they are applying the religious the whole religious hierarchy right into that or like that's the same thing with like people practicing some kind of alternative medicine, but meanwhile they're still in the mindset, they're still in the consciousness of what they're trying to get away from, but they think they're
Well,
not because they're talking about a different topic.
there's a term for that, spiritual materialism,
Yeah.
right? And that's using spirituality to boost and support your ego
Mm.
instead of getting beyond your ego.
It's very funny because I feel really lucky because I get humbled. I get a good smackdown a lot of times, like if like over the years, because I explored all that. Like I went into it. I went into all the new age stuff. I did it all. And I like would look back and go like, why? Why would I, like why? Why was it why? And I had and in a way, like I had to go in it to see it, to understand the cost of it, and to help my clients out of it. Like
Yeah.
so if I hadn't gone in it and gone to the deepest, kind of darkest places with it, but I still, even during that time, would get, man, I get smackdowns like not necessarily from people. I get like them from dreams or I got recently very humbled in a dream. Um and it was and a lot of it had to do with having compassion from you know people who are mentally ill, but like that's to me is still like this brainwashing, like there's a to me this is a mental illness to think that you're doing one thing but you're really still doing the same thing and you can't get out of it, you're blind. And so I was like, oh, I mean it was like a crazy level of like woof, I humbled.
Well, the universe will always give you feedback,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, but I get
You
it like
know,
it's like real like loud. It's like here's a frying pan. Boom.
right? Well, it starts with it taps you gently to start, and if you don't listen, it'll, push you a little harder, and then
All
if
right.
you still don't listen, well, then yeah, out comes a frying pan.
Yeah, I need the I think I just it just kind of like it was like a, you know, a bell. meaning like, and what the bell kind of clears off when it rings, especially if your head is inside of it.
Hmm.
So it's just an interesting like time and place to be in, and to think about consciousness, and to think about being like, to me, I'm just facilitating healing, like, but there's so much with doing that that's very difficult for me. It's like, this is not an easy place to be, because you are trying to help people to get out of the consciousness that's creating their issue, but they don't want to leave it because it's comfortable.
Yeah, right. It stinks, but it's my stink, you know?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's, that's a good one. Yeah. So what do you like? So basically, because I've had treatment from you, but we know each other and you know me, so I don't know how you operate with people who are not so open to consciousness.
I don't talk about it for people who aren't open to it, right? I mean, you don't have to be aware on a level for
Mhm.
my treatment to work,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But if you come in and you say you have things wrong with you, and oh yeah, you want to lose 15 extra pounds, and everything else starts feeling better, but you haven't lost the 15 pounds and you think treatment isn't working, I mean,
Mhm.
that's,
Right.
you know, I have to tell people that when they come in that, it's a systemic treatment, and that sometimes your body will prioritize what it wants to resolve first, and it's not necessarily in the order you think it has to resolve.
Oh, that's great.
You know,
Where'd you learn that? Where'd you
I
get
don't
that?
know.
You just downloaded it from your soul,
I don't
basically.
know.
I like
Somewhere in my
that.
travels.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm gonna use that. That's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I like that because that's true. Once you start, because it's not, it's because it's a systemic treatment, and the body has an intelligence, and it does have its own priority
Yeah.
over what you think it over you being able to play golf.
Yeah.
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 And it was interesting because I helped someone the other day who was in pain, and they're not a client. It was just like basically a stranger. Like there's a whole, it's a whole thing. Sometimes if I feel, I'll tell them what I do, and I'll ask them if they're open to help, and if they are, then I'll help. But I did the help, but I could see it wasn't necessarily. I knew there was more, right? So I said, I don't know if this will hold, but we'll see. And there's probably more. But I watched him. It's like it's so familiar to me. Like, I'm not reading his energy, I'm not like invading his space. But it was very clear that it's like just going back, like doubting that he could feel better, doubting, like kind of like going back into, it's like going back into descending back into hell, because that's what they know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
One thing I also
mhm.
tell people when they start treatment is, or when they say, how does it work or something, I'll say, well, we have a blueprint, and we're blueprinted for symmetry and balance. And the treatment brings you back to your blueprint and reminds
Mhm.
you of that blueprint.
Yeah, I say restoring default factory settings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just to be cheeky. But yeah, I think it takes a lot for people to realize. People don't think about healing, or they don't think about what it really takes, or how much their body's actually doing, even though they're in discomfort for whatever reason, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or even spiritual discomfort. they don't realize how much their body is trying to right everything.
Yeah.
And if they could just stop and kind of think, for me, my whole thing is getting people like, let's start with a new relationship with your body. Like, let's like get you to even be centered in your body. Like, what's it feel like to even be in your body? Like, do you even know that? Because that to me is like can help people, because also it's about feeling safe enough to even heal. Some people don't feel safe to heal because they won't know the healed, they don't know the healed reality yet. Because the truth is, the reality, even before whatever happened, is still not the healed reality. It's the unknown. So we're looking at really healing is the unknown. It's the unknown self.
Yeah, I try to create a space. And I don't know, did we talk about this last time where space really is not a void? It's not
Yeah, I think
nothingness, but it's really,
yeah, I
you
get,
know,
we did. Yeah, we talked about
but
that.
possibilities.
Yeah.
That's one of the possibilities is the possibility for healing or a change.
And sometimes it's not, I think there are spontaneous and miraculous healings that occur. I feel like that happens sometimes, and sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's a longer, it's a slower process because that's what's necessary.
Yeah.
But that people, it's like, just can you get to the level of, can you get to the consciousness in yourself where you even are open to the possibility of healing without saying like, oh, well, that's like, here we are on the, again, the power versus force scale, and things start to turn when you have courage. Okay, I understand some of that premise. Right? Things start to, on that scale of consciousness, courage is where things start to turn, right? Start to become. And I would say like courage is probably then the thing that's necessary to even be on any end of that spectrum of consciousness. But actually that might be the middle path.
Say that again.
So that courage might be the middle path between any end of spectrum of consciousness, a willingness to look, a willingness to be, and courage, courage has a lot, is kur is heart,
From the heart, right?
from
Right.
the heart
So
age.
it's like the entry you're saying, and
I'm saying, I think it's like, if I were to look at that force, like that whole, because he makes it like a, it's like a cone, right? A vortex that goes like this. I think that's wrong. I think it really is more like a Merkabah field, or like it's like one of those, that's like a one of those fields where the center point, there's a cone at the bottom and a cone at the bottom, like at the top,
Taurus.
a torus, and courage is in the middle.
Mm.
Courage is the middle path. So courage is what helps you to be able, because to be enlightened, people don't realize too. Like, do you know how much you have to let go of to be that, to get to that point in yourself that already exists? What courage does it take to look at the mirror of love for yourself? What courage does it take to look at the mirror of shame?
Yeah, it's a shedding process, right?
Yes, the shedding process. Yeah. But that's why, like, I haven't read his books. I just keep looking at that chart. And one of the reasons I don't read his books is because I don't know, I just don't feel, part of it is I don't feel it. I don't feel it, right? But I keep looking at that going, well, that still even feels two-dimensional when he's talking about that, how he has that scale.
Mrs. Hawkins.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it's helpful. I think it gets people to a certain point, but it also says to me, like, if that's where the turning point is, that's the transformation point for all things then.
Daring,
Hmm?
daring.
Daring. Well, I also like, I'm happy to be wrong about this theory. I don't have any way of proving it, but that's just the way it feels to me. I don't care. Part of it is like, I've said so many things over the years and I've grown and I've changed and I I reserve the right to be wrong and the right to grow through what I've said in the past.
On the meditation training path
Yeah.
that I took, right? It's, you have to, we call it the cocoon, right? You have to see your cocoon, your habitual patterns, way of
Mhm.
operating in the world, of thinking, of
Mhm.
feeling, of acting, and
Mm.
right. And like we said earlier, it stinks.
It
And right, you have to
stinks.
see that. Um, and then next comes the daring when you have a little inkling that the world can be so much more vivid than it is right now,
Hmm.
right? It can be so much and more. And there is that bravery to kind of take the leap out into it.
Hmm.
And there are no guarantees,
Hmm.
right? Um, but that's the first step. And it is, yeah, it is a shedding process of identifying less and less with what you thought you were. And it's growing pains, right? It can be painful. It's
Hmm.
kind of a tenderizing process. It beats you up a little bit, but I'm not saying it's meant to be torture at all, right? If you're traumatizing yourself, whatever
Right.
you're into, that it, you better stop it. But that's what the practice of meditation itself does. Is you get to trust yourself more. You learn to trust yourself more, and you develop discernment.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to sit in yourself, discernment is not happening. That to me
If
is
you're not
like,
willing to sit, no,
hmm,
no, it takes it. You have to put the work into it.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it was for me, it was like, it was like change or die, like change and die, like, um,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's why I had to meditate. Like I needed
Yeah.
it, like, because, being sensitive, like, and understanding how sensitivity can be developed and meaning I have a whole thing about this, but I can talk about another time. But sensitivity doesn't always mean health. Like being sensitive to all things and environment and all the energies does not necessarily indicate health. And that's something I realized over time. And I realized it like through meditating, where I just needed time to process through all the things, but even just, um, I would say people can be very harsh. Like their energy can be very harsh, even if they don't mean it. And part of it is because they're so hard on themselves.
Mm.
So, and that for me, as like kind of like a softer person, which people don't realize, like, I mean, I can pull my jersey out if I have to, like be tough or whatever, if I have to defend myself. I don't really like to have to do that. But it's that, it's like I needed that to be able to just sort out my consciousness, like, and like while I'm, working on helping others, just to get centered in my own self. So I didn't get lost in there when whatever was going on with them.
Yeah.
And I always think that like, we're kind of like these quantum biocomputers, and some part of me, if I could feel that, like, well, like I could feel some part of me still calculating and computing for a person, because I wasn't sure, like I mean, I could approach them in certain ways, right? And with clarity, but then like going, well, there's still more. How can I help them? How can I help them? Realizing that they weren't willing to go where I was calculating for them to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I had to stop,
Yeah.
because in my
That's the
mind,
art
yeah,
to it.
yeah, in my mind, we're all kind of calculating things all the time. We're calculating cause and effect, and we're calculating it incorrectly. Based on our level of consciousness, and how to correct that, right, is to get the body in more harmony and the consciousness in more harmony, and then you can start calculate, then those subconscious calculations become more coherent. And then
It's a
you also,
dance, right?
yeah, and then also when to like stop. Like I started to like, oh, I'm not going to calculate for this person anymore. I would just stop. Like even it's like, because you could feel, to me, I could feel the drain. I'm like, no, no, they've got to figure this part out. I can only do this. This is where I can, what I can do. And I noticed it when I helped this guy the other day, and then I saw him retell the story of his injury and holding on to that story like over and over and over and over. And I said, oh, he's identified in it, and I'm not taking that personally. I don't care.
Well,
Like
that's a
I
quick way to burn out for the practitioner, right?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's a quick way to burn out for people too. Like if you're trying to figure your own shit out.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, so it's like how what you're calculating, like, so the formula you're using to calculate is not the right one, right? Or it's just wrong. It's like it's not, doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, even just the
mhm.
word calculate and everything. I mean, it's kind of it's just a feedback loop, right? You kind of you
Well,
get a sense for the texture and
right, right.
the energetic quality.
Yeah, I'm just using that as like a metaphor because it makes sense.
Mhm.
Like, it's like, to me, the way that people are, you know, it's just they're either multiplying or adding or subtracting or dividing, and maybe they're not
Yeah.
using the right thing for what they are looking for. But again, it's just metaphorical.
Yeah. How can I manipulate this data where it all comes out to my advantage?
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Which
So
so
do,
many of us.
yeah. So do you have anything else to add? Well, because we're at an hour. That felt like
Wow.
5 minutes.
It did. It did. But I think this is a good place to stop.
All right.
Uh,
So
maybe
yeah.
let's end it with a Zen saying, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
All right. You're perfect the way you are, and you could use a little improvement.
Oh, I love that.
I think Suzuki Roshi said that.
I love that. Thank you for that, Rob. That feels so good. That feels like a great note to end on. And if you want to reach out to Rob, he's at silverneedlewellness.com. And I am at like, if you really just want to reach out, like, and send a message to me, then you can just email me at aloha@rebelsouldesigned.com. So there's that. So that we'll see you again in 2 weeks. I don't know. We'll figure out what we're going to talk about next time. But if you have a request for something you want us to talk about, then just reach out to me, and then that's what we'll talk about. Okay. So
Okay.
thanks, Rob.
Because we really didn't prep for this at all.
No, no, we just give us the topic, and we'll go, we'll
We'll freeform.
Well, freeform, yeah. Based on our experience and our what we've learned in life. So, all right. So, thanks to everyone who was here live. Thanks to everyone who watches the replay. And if you have questions for either of us, just reach out and we'll answer them. So, I'm gonna stop recording now.